Welcome to Marvelous Disney, the podcast that discusses the most recent doings at one of the more dynamic divisions of the Walt Disney Company, which is, of course, Marvel Entertainment. This is entertainment writer Jim Hill, and my co-host, the amazing Aaron Adams, and I are recording this week's episode on Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. The most recent episode of Marvel What If dropped earlier today, the one that detailed what could have happened if Killmonger had rescued Tony Stark just as the events of the start of the very first Iron Man film were getting underway. What'd you think?
Well, that Killmonger, he's a slippery snake now, isn't he? You just can't trust that guy.
This is very true. This is very true.
It was nice to see the compare and contrast from what we know of versus the what if. I think that's been a lot of the fun throughout this series. Once again, we get more voiceover work from Chadwick Boseman, but again, Marvel would not say anything about that because what do? We betray him and we kill him in this episode, and that's not a bright ray of sunshine for our hero.
I was going to bring that up, but I think once again you figured it out. Obviously, last week's episode with Marvel Zombies, you don't want to play up that he became the buffet. And this one where he gets taken out.
Let's just focus on the one where what if T'Challa was Star-Lord? That's kind of one. It was funny, and he made Thanos a lovable good guy. So, yeah, we'll remember T'Challa more in that episode as opposed to these other what ifs because, man, they just aren't treating our king very well.
That said, though, I have to admit I was once again impressed by the vocal cast they assembled for this. I mean, obviously, you get Michael B. Jordan back as Killmonger and Jon Favreau as Happy Hogan, though Happy isn't in it all that much. But then, you get Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda, Danae Gure back as Okeo, Andy Serkis back as Claus, Paul Bettany as Jarvis, even Don Cheadle as Rhodey, and John Candy back as T'Chaka. He was in Winter Soldier, and then he did turn up in Black Panther after Black Panther took the herb and went back into the Mystic Realm, right? So the dad did come back. But I enjoyed the moment in it, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't put this together, given that the Dora Milaje is Wakanda's fiercest warriors. Why I didn't put together that Queen Ramonda would be a general and actually in charge of the troops, that's on me. But again, I just love that moment. What do you think, General? And, then suddenly she's out there leading the troops. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I do hope we get to see a little bit more of that with Black Panther Wakanda Forever. That's this week's What If. And remember, this was episode 6, I want to say.
Yep.
So we've got
4 left.
4 more. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So hard to admit that I can't count, but I guess next week is not our 100th episode? Is that what you're saying? Or
that's what I'm saying because my mouth is full of cake. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. I got cake in my mouth. How about you?
I planned poorly. I have no cake.
And that's the sad thing is we told all of our wonderful listeners to go ahead and go get their favorite cupcakes, and we're going to get candles and everything for next week. And here, the party's this week. Everyone's going to show up next week with cake, and it's just going to be sad because the party was the week before. So, sorry, guys. We blew that one.
101 is Significant Day 2. Hell, if there were that many Dalmatians, we'd be celebrating. So bring the cake. We'll still
great.
do
Well, then let's do it for the week after that for 102 Dalmatians, the sequel. And we'll just do Marvelous Dalmatians will be the new mud.
Okay. Well, lots of real news to report. So I want to point out that the news portion of this week's Marvelous Disney is brought to you by Storybook Destinations, trusted travel partner of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. For a worry-free travel experience, please book online at StorybookDestinations.com. So we're now officially halfway through the month of September, which, if you're operating in a theme park, means you should already be holding your Halloween event. Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom got its after-hours Boo Bash going back on August 10th. Universal got its Halloween Horror Nights. That got it going September 3rd. West Coast version of Halloween Horror Nights, which is held at Universal Studios Hollywood, started on September 9th. And the Oogie Boogie Bash, which is held at Disney's California Adventure, got underway on the exact same day, Thursday, September 9th. And It's this seasonal event that I think Marvel fans would be most interested in, because if you're in DCA and you make your way to the Avengers campus and then wander into the ancient sanctum where they have Doctor Strange do several mysteries of the mystic art shows each day, during the Oogie Boogie Bash, this is where you find Agatha Harkness, the nosy neighbor from Marvel's WandaVision limited series. She's doing a meet and greet as part of this Halloween event. Mind you, it is a pandemic era meet and greet. You're viewing the character from a distance. You have to keep moving to accommodate the other people in the line.
So they're going to run up that whole neighbor theme by keeping her on the other side of a fence, and you can look and wave and point as she mows her lawn very loudly at 8 o'clock in the morning, you damn neighbor.
Were that the case? Well, first of all, you got to praise the folks at Disney in their costuming department. They've got Agatha in her full-on witch costume from the final episode of this limited series. They've also hired a bunch of character lookalikes because, again, you need a number of folks to portray this character over the numerous nights that they'll be presenting the Oogie Boogie Bash. But they did a great job of casting. They have a lot of performers who are very on point with their Catherine Hahn impressions. And they set up sort of this temporary podium as if Agatha has pulled stones straight out of the ground and is now standing 5 and 6 feet tall over the crowds that are walking by, and chats with them. Speaking of WandaVision and its costumes, I don't know if you saw, Aaron, just this past weekend, they tend to do the tech awards for the Primetime Emmys these days, a week or so ahead of time. And WandaVision actually has done fairly well so far, at least on the tech side of things. Took home an Emmy for Outstanding Fantasy and Sci-Fi Costumes. Likewise took home an Emmy for Outstanding Production Design for a Narrative Program. And then finally, they took home Outstanding Original Music and Lyrics. And that Emmy was given to Kristen Anderson Lopez and Bobby Lopez for the Ookie Kookie theme song they wrote for Catherine Hahn's character. It was Agatha all along. So...
Well, that's barely even fair.
Why is that?
Well, we were talking about it when WandaVision was airing, how they had used musical notes from one episode for one theme, and then they would reuse that musical motif in a different song, and then they would build on that. And they kept using the same, I say, 4 or 5 notes over and over and over and over again. So by the time you got to Agatha All Along, you were already primed and pumped for that theme because they'd been almost subliminally feeding it to you for the last 4 or 5 weeks. And that's why when it hit, everybody was like, damn, that's my jam. I want to dance to it. I mean, they've been feeding it to you this whole time. So those cats, they know what they're doing when it comes to writing the tunes. It's like the old... what were the old guy? Were they brothers from the Disney days?
Oh, the Sherman Brothers.
Yeah, they're the new version of the Sherman Brothers. It's except they're husband and wife instead of brother and brother.
Well, okay. I hope that story ends better than the Sherman Brothers story.
I have no idea how that ended. I'll be looking forward to it on a new Disney dish coming up soon.
There we go. And again, these 3 technical awards so far really do bode well for WandaVision heading into the actual Primetime Emmys, which are going to be handed out this coming Sunday night, September 19th. The fact that the WandaVision award, the 3 that they took home, were the very first Emmys that Marvel Studios ever won. So they're really cruising into Sunday hoping that, in addition to the tech stuff, they get the recognition for acting stuff. Speaking, though, of the limited series, what did you think of the Hawkeye teaser trailer that dropped earlier this week?
It felt a lot like the setup for Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, except with more bows and arrows, which is really what the John Candy and Steve Martin movie was really missing, in my opinion, was more bow and arrow action. That would have made it a true standout, legendary, top-tier comedic film. But no, it looks funny. And that's the thing is, I did not expect... Christmas to be the season.
Yep.
It's not often that we get a season, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice. I think Iron Man 3 was the last time we had a Christmas in the Marvel Universe.
I know it was snowing at some point in the story because
Well, it was a oh Jesus, what was the director's name?
Shane Black.
Shane Black. He always likes if you watch his movies that he directs, they're almost always set at Christmas time. That's one of his little hallmarks there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was very much a Christmas movie because that's his thing, and he loves a Christmas vibe, and he liked working with RDJ because they had known each other from something else. But yeah, so that was where they got hooked up. I think it was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was also a Christmas movie. So, Your Honor, I rest my case. There we go.
Well, but the other thing I think is worth noting here is this isn't just a Christmas movie. This is a Christmas in New York movie. I mean, I was enjoying the fact that I don't know if they'll actually outright identify this as such, but there looked to be at least one action sequence where they slid down a line into the Rockefeller Christmas tree, or for that matter, continued the battle on the ice rink right there at 30 Rock.
Right. I will tell you that my wife is usually nonplussed by Marvel things. And I said, hey, the new Hawkeye trailer's out. And she went, meh. And I was like, come on, just take a peek at it. And she's like, ugh. She's monosyllabic with me. Meh and was all I got out of her for so far in this conversation. And I started to play the trailer, and I said, please stop rolling your eyes. It's hard to see the screen when your eyes are all the way in the back of your head like that. And then Haley Steinfeld came on the screen, and she went, oh, I didn't know she was in this. And I went, uh-huh. And she went, ah. And then the trailer got over with, and she went, fine, I'll watch it, because she's great and freaking everything. I'm going to go watch True Grit now. So, hey, Marvel, casting, cha-ching, you win. Good job.
So,
yeah.
But the fact that, just as a throwaway, that we get Rogers the musical with...
Oh, yeah. I so want that. We had one of our listeners reach out on Twitter who said that if that should be the Christmas episode and that should have absolutely nothing to do with Hawkeye, just Rogers the musical for half an hour, from beginning credits to end credits and done. And I could not agree more. That would be a wonderful Christmas present of just like a Hamilton-esque Rogers the musical.
Rogers the musical is supposedly being presented in the Lunt-Fontanne, which was where Beauty and the Beast, after it left the Palace Theater after a several-year run, it finished its run at the Lunt-Fontanne. And that's, faces right on the Times Square. So it's just the notion of they pick the theater that's right on Times Square. This is such a New York set in the holiday story that I can't wait to see how this plays out. And I have to admit, I like this right from the catchphrase. This holiday season, the best gifts come with a bow. But you have to hand it to Marvel Studios. If you look at WandaVision, you look at Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, and now Hawkeye, they've all had consistently high production values. They've had strong casts. You were just mentioning how smart it was to hire Ms. Steinfeld for her role in Hawkeye. Basically, you see every dollar that Marvel's put into these things up on the screen. But for me, what's fascinating about the limited series to date is they all have very different styles and tones. They all seem to be their own unique animal. And I think, as you pointed out, Hawkeye, at least from this initial trailer, looks to be kind of a light holiday romp.
Yeah, like a buddy road trip comedy. Hawkeye's got to hurry up and get home, otherwise he'll disappoint his family. Meanwhile, the thing where he's on the phone with his wife and he says, hold on, and then he busts out a window so he can catch the Molotov cocktail and then throw it back out. It's like Bond wishes he were that freaking slick, right? That's such a great moment.
And for me, the cherry on the sundae is to have this entire trailer with the music bed being It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, from the Andy Williams Christmas album, which released back in October of '63, and which my mom played every holiday season. She still does. It's no longer the LP, which long since wore out. It's now the CD. But I got to say, if this is how 2021 is going to end out, I'll take it, particularly after the last year and a half, to have a fun Hawkeye film, which I wouldn't have taken that bet Remember how we met up with Hawkeye, in Endgame. In fact, the trailer alludes to that. Him as Ronin, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, he's able to do comedy really, really well. I mean, if you've ever seen some of the other movies that he's done where it's a more comedic role, the dude's got the chops. So let's lean into it and make it fun, right? I mean, Marvel's never shied away from having a silly ha-ha moment during a time of crisis. So fill it with humor. Let Jeremy Renner go crazy. It looks like he's the mentor in this version, right? So he's going to be passing along his wisdom, which means he gets to be a little bit more smart-assy than normal. The one thing that I noticed was as soon as the trailer came out, there were a lot of people on Twitter started trending Florence Pugh. I'm like, well, why would Florence be trending? She hasn't been in anything recently, including the trailer. And that's exactly why she was trending on Twitter. Everyone's like, hey, at the end of Black Widow, weren't we promised that she was going to be the nemesis here for Hawkeye? So, Jim, what do you think? Are we still in teaser territory? Should we have gotten a hint of Florence? Do you think she's involved at all? What's up?
There is a genuine art to cutting a teaser trailer. I mean, they give you the flavor, they give you a hint of the shape of the story. It's only later that you get the truly dense trailer that drops as many story points. That's the one that's supposed to truly hook you in. That's the one. So I would imagine they're holding Florence or footage of Florence in reserve for the really for real trailer that will undoubtedly drop probably October.
Well, the reality of the situation is we haven't known what the hell's been going on with any of these series until we get halfway through the darn thing, sometimes to the last episode or two before we really figure out what's been going on the whole time. They're really good at keeping stuff hidden and revealing in their own sweet time and misdirection. I point left and then you look over that way and I do something over on the right. Marvel's so great at that.
Okay. Well, speaking of not knowing what you're talking about, on the last show.
That's a transition for the ages for this show. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I remember on the last show, we were talking about Morris, the magical creature that Trevor Slattery, the Ben Kingsley character in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. It's this magical creature that doesn't have a face, but has wings and 6 legs. And I actually said definitively to the effect, well, I can't ever see Disney merchandising something like that. So it was with no small pleasure that Nancy sent me the link from Shop Disney just the other day, what they call a Morris feature plush. Inspired by Marvel Studios' Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, this Morris feature plush, made by Mattel, brings Trevor Slattery's adorable sidekick to life. You push a button on Morris's front leg, he's got 6 of them, by the way, to see his wings move. This creature, which comes straight from the magical forest at the borders of the village of Ta Lo, is made from super soft premium fabrics, so fans of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings can get up close with this very huggable version of Morris. This plush Marvel collectible from Mattel stands 9 inches tall and retails for $39.99. And they make a point of including, special reminder, Morris has no face in a true-to-movie look and requires he also requires 3 AA batteries to make his wings move, appropriate for ages 3 and up.
Yeah, well, they save a fortune because you don't have to embroider or stitch any silly eyeballs, nose, and mouth on the darn thing. I could be selling a bag of my hair with wings glued to it and 6 Barbie doll legs taped to the bottom for $30 for all I know so far.
Okay. But I'm intrigued by the ages 3 and up. So does that mean if you give a Morris plush to someone 3 and under, they'll then require therapy for life? You're going to wake up screaming. It's like, it had no face, Mommy. It had no face.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have to see the movie, right? I can't make the judgment call on a Morris until I've seen a Morris with my very own eyes and how Morris doesn't have eyes.
You gotta love the fact that you pull out your soapbox, you stand up. I can't see them ever making a plush of this, and to have your own beloved, your own significant other, with great skill, kick the box right out from under you. And I have to tell you also, I'm thinking about buying this. I mean, we're two people.
Wait a minute, Jim Hill buy a plush? I've never heard of such a crazy thing.
That's the thing. We are 2 60-year-olds with way too much plush in the house. In fact, I'm looking now that We have the cat from Luca. We have actually two versions of the cat from Soul, the Soul cat and then the therapy cat. So I guess if you squint, Morris could be considered. Morris, it's the name of a cat. Morris the cat. So, all right, we're in.
I just want to know how you have a meaningful moment when you can't make eye contact. I mean, where do you look at the thing, right?
You haven't been to all that many Hill family dinners. So, yes, Morris really does look like a turkey that it's been exposed to gamma rays. And speaking of turkeys, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, certainly not a turkey, at least at the box office. But due to something that Simu Lui said, it's going to have some trouble making much more than it's made to date at the international box office. And Aaron and I will explain why on the second half of today's show.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
All right, listen up, nacho chips. Quiet down, crispy potatoes. This is the moment Velveeta's been preparing you for, and you're not about to crack under pressure. Today's the day to go all in on the drip. Velveeta's Heat and Eat Queso is the MVP of any game day spread, so stick by them, and you'll be golden. Now get out there and make delicious history. No tailgate party is complete without Velveeta.
Were you paying attention to how Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings did over its second weekend release, or?
I saw that it did well, and I was very happy that it's got legs, so to speak. It's great that it's more than just a flash in the pan, one hit, one weekend, and it's going to go a bit more distance.
Well, yeah. For me, I was kind of surprised to see how many theaters it was actually in. Here in North America, 4,300 theaters. It certainly did well at the box office, second weekend release. It was $35.8 million in ticket sales, significantly better than Malignant, I believe, is the second place film, which only did $5.5 million or thereabouts.
And Malignant was not worth that. We watched it and we were like, oh, that was a crap movie. So if you have a choice, go see Shang-Chi, because it's got to be better than Malignant was.
How many months did we talk about X-Men, The New Mutants that way? So
that was because it didn't come out forever and ever and ever. Like Malignant was just, it was like very 80s in premise and execution, where I was like, oh wow, you just put a rubber mask on someone backwards and called it a day. Damn, that's genius, bro. What'd that movie cost? $7.95? I've had a Big Gulp cost more than that movie. I'm sorry. Yeah. We're off track from Marvel.
No, that's okay. This is why people listen to the show. So, Shang-Chi's stateside box office to date is $145.6 million, which you'd think would make the folks at Disney and Marvel happy. But if we pivot just a few years back to the billion-dollar box office that Avengers Infinity Wars and Avengers Endgame did in 2018 and 2019, respectively, a lot of that money came in from overseas, with filmgoers in China contributing a large chunk of change to both of those films' international box office totals. And I understand that Endgame and Infinity Wars were effectively the end of Phase 3 and years worth of movies to get to this point. So,
you're comparing apples to space shuttles is what you're doing.
There we go. But
okay.
One of the reasons those movies made as much money as it is because the Chinese government, which is incredibly restrictive when it comes to movies from the West that it will allow to be shown in theaters in country, agreed to allow Infinity Wars and Endgame to be released in that country. And as of this moment, it's looking really unlikely that Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings will be granted the same privilege that the Chinese government
Wait a minute. No. Surely you're joking.
Well,
No, wait a minute. Let's back up a second. Wasn't like Iron Man 3 partially shot in Shanghai or something? Like, didn't they cooperated? They cooperated, Jim. They cooperated with the Chinese government to get in there and shoot some footage, and so that way it could be shown in the Chinese market. So you're telling me that having a fully Asian character with all of the animals with no faces and flying flaming birds that are supposed to be like that, that doesn't get you open gates into the Chinese movie markets? What the hell?
Well, it's not so much Shang-Chi the character or that, you have your first Asian lead in a Marvel film. It's what Simu Lui is on record as having said.
No, wait a minute. I'm sorry, you must have misspoke. Surely you meant Bob Chapek, because he's the one that has foot and mouth disease.
Well, no. The Chinese social media recently has been aflame because of some comments that Simu made during a 2017 interview with the Canadian broadcast company. At that time, Liu recalled that his parents told him about communist China. They described China as being this third world country where people were dying of starvation.
Oh, even I know better than that.
Well, but this is, you got to remember, this was 2017. This was even before he did his tweet, hey, Marvel, I know you're about to make the Shang-Chi movie. Let's talk. I don't know if you've been following the news about the story coming out of the most recent Bob Woodward book, Peril, about the final days of the Trump presidency, where Mark Milley, the President Trump's good right arm militarily, who actually reached out to his equivalent in the Chinese government to reassure him that nothing untoward would happen because the tensions were so high between the two companies or the two countries because of COVID and what had just happened, the election. They just wanted to assure him that, no, we won't be nuking you anytime soon. So it's one of these things where you have this very tense period between the United States and China, and it is affecting the companies that do business with both countries. And what's particularly frustrating to Disney is they thought, well, Shang-Chi's going to get in there and that'll be great because it was looking less and less likely that the Eternals would be able, which again isn't being released to theaters till November 5th of this year. But it was looking like they were going to have trouble getting that one placed in China, and that was because Chloe Zhao, the director of this upcoming Marvel Studios release, had actually been born in China. And years previous, she made some pretty cutting comments about that country's government, which resurfaced last year when Zhao was out on the festival circuit doing promotion for her eventually Academy Award-winning film Nomadland. And these are literally years ago comments.
Right. I would hope that China, at some point, learns about this weird American word called synergy that the corporations made up, where it meant two different things that do something that help each other out. And it's like, if you play the movie for Shang-Chi, then you put an actor in the suit in the park, and then the people will come to the park. And you like money, right? Everybody likes money. If there's one thing that we can all agree on, no matter how much we hate everything else in the world, everybody loves money. So just do it for the money.
See, the problem is right now, if you've been paying attention to China at all over the last month or two, between the announcement coming down from on high that they're going to start restricting the amount of gaming time that kids can play, and that
I saw that, and that was brutal. If I were a kid in that country at this day and age, I would just be like, where is the nearest border crossing?
And also, I want to say they recently handed down another edict to the folks who produce movies and television in China to the effect of they leaned heavily into don't show effeminate men. We don't want to see sissy men. And it's just sort of like, okay.
Now, I've got a really weird question about this, because is it either China or Japan that does not believe in ghosts and will not allow ghosts in their media?
I want to say it's China.
Okay, you have any idea how they handle the spirit form of the Ancient One from Doctor Strange once her character gets killed off?
I want to say in the original Doctor Strange, there is a scene at the hospital after she has passed, where, but again, she's glowing, she's talking, and again, that it's magic.
Well, yeah, the astral plane, that's a fancy word for, spirit out of body. So I'm sure as long as they go, no, astral plane, that's fair play. We can just call it astral plane and leave it at that, guys. And then they're covered for that moment. So it makes me wonder, like, if Marvel has to consider, like, what they can and cannot write based on, because you do have to consider the sensibilities of other markets at some point.
No, absolutely. And in fact, Benedict Cumberbatch is out doing press right now for The Courier and the Power of the Dog. And, of course, Tom Holland has recently been out there talking about Spider-Man No Way Home, saying, it is the most ambitious superhero film that's ever been made. And Benedict Cumberbatch sort of confirmed this, to the effect of he got the script and he was reading, what was on the page, and just, how the hell are they going to do that? And this is a guy, again, who was in Doctor Strange, where cities would split upon themselves and they'd be running up the side of buildings. And it's like, there was stuff in the script that confused him.
Yeah, because it said Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in a couple of those lines. And they're like, what the hell? How are you going to get these guys? Aren't they dead? Are you going to resurrect them? Is this a Marvel Zombies thing? What's going on?
There you go. So, but Cumberbatch did go on to say that, yes.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm going to predict because I sense, I have the keen spidey senses when it comes to the propaganda department. Mm-hmm. So Benedict is going to say something like, oh, yes, it is the most magical, wonderful, crazy, wild film experience of superhero genre ever to happen. Until, that is, my film, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, comes out into theaters, insert date here, and makes all the money in the world, right? And then that will be the most fantastic thing ever made.
I'm going to have you start buying my lottery tickets. That basically nails exactly what he said.
Right.
Now, speaking of how the hell are they going to do that? Tim Roth recently did an interview with the folks at The Direct and was talking about his return to the MCU, which will come about officially with the She-Hulk limited series that Marvel Studios is prepping for Disney. And he talked about it had been 13 years since he'd last played Emil Blonsky, the Abomination, in The Incredible Hulk back in 2008. And he took the job back then just because I thought my kids would be embarrassed by it. I did it for them and I really enjoyed making it. So when Marvel Studios came to me and said, we're adapting the She-Hulk for Disney Plus, would you come back as that character again? I said, sure, it should be fun. But he then went on to say, I was surprised when I got to the She-Hulk set and found out it was initially difficult for me to play Emil the Abomination again. I couldn't get a handle at first on how to portray this character correctly for this new limited series. It was only after Mark Ruffalo came in to shoot his stuff of reprising the role of Bruce Banner that I went, oh, that's how you do it, with a sense of humor.
And that was when they were doing the New York scene where they go, hey, do it like the old Hulk did it. And then Mark goes, smash, like with no enthusiasm whatsoever. He just kind of BS'd his way through that scene and everyone went, I guess that's kind of what we wanted, right? And then was that the scene that he was taking from? Is Abomination going to go, phooey?
I don't know. But actually what I'm more intrigued by is the way he's talking here. The very first time he did Emil Blonsky, the Abomination, was for She-Hulk. But as anyone who would tell you who's seen Shang-Chi, the Abomination is in this movie. And that there's a wonderful little scene where, they're at the Fight Club and Wong and the, Abomination are fighting. And somebody at this point sees this interview and reaches out to Jonathan Schwartz, the producer of Shang-Chi, and flat out asks him, so Tim Roth actually did the voice of the Abomination in the movie. And, He says that Tim Roth did record some vocalizations for us. He was definitely part of the process of producing this Marvel Studios film. What I am hearing, Aaron, is that Roth was actually on the set of She-Hulk, and somebody came in on the set one day and said, oh, I forgot to tell you, the Abomination is in Shang-Chi. And do you have like 5 minutes? Can you record a few lines that we can drop into the movie? But to give you some idea of how tight this was, She-Hulk was only in active production at Marvel Studios from April of this year through August. So they grabbed the audio with Tim during that window of time and then pushed it into the film. And think about it, if Shang-Chi had come out on its original release date, they wouldn't have been able to do that. Roth wasn't in the neighborhood. They couldn't jump in and have him record these lines. So
No, I'm sure that would be the day that there'd be a knock on the door. He opens it up. It's FedEx with package, sir. He opens it up, and it's a USB microphone and a laptop. And they're like, what's this for? I wonder. A little note. And plug it in, stupid. Oh, okay. I'll go plug it in. Opens it up, and then Feige's on the other end already on FaceTime, just tapping his fingers. Oh, Jesus, I've been waiting here for the last half hour. About time. Here, just read these 2 sentences for me. We got a movie.
Okay. Now, speaking of movies, another thing that got announced just in this past week is 2 new Marvel movies. We don't know what they are. They're untitled Marvel projects that got slotted for 2024.
Captain America 4 and Fantastic Four. That's my guess.
Okay. And again, remember, this is the man who I want to buy lottery tickets for me, so it could be right. But going forward from 2022, 2023, 2024, we have 15 Marvel movies scheduled for release through now and the end of 2024.
It's not quite double what we have as far as MCU content, but geez, that's a healthy scoop. Okay,
but remember, this is just the theatrical stuff. If we pivot to the limited series that we've seen on Disney Plus, we got WandaVision starting in January. We got Falcon and the Winter Soldier late winter, early spring. We got Loki over the summer, and we're now getting Hawkeye. So going forward, if this pattern holds, we're going to have 4 theatrical releases from Marvel Studios, coupled with 4 limited series per year over at Disney Plus. Not to mention that on the heels of the success of Marvel What If, they're already talking about making additional animated projects. And Aaron, let me ask you, as well as ask our listeners, since no tree grows to the sky, how much of Marvel is too much Marvel?
Oh, it's, I was almost thinking about this very question today. I say almost because it was just phrased differently. Mm-hmm. And what I was thinking was, again, because we've got time with Kevin Feige, because he joins us for every chat. Let me get a log on the fire here so we can get cozied up here. Okay. Personal chat time with Kevin Feige. Kevin, all right, so here's the idea. This is my new thought for you. The idea of seasons, it's so 1900s. You just need to make that never stop. That's it. All right. I hope you've enjoyed our fireside chat with Kevin Feige. What I'm trying to say is just keep it rolling. Just keep it rolling forever and ever. Like a soap opera, shoot every day and churn that stuff out. It's just been so good. I want more of it.
That does impact my thought on this. You know, if there had been an obvious misstep or a step off in quality, but that's just not the case. I mean, again, to bring things full circle to what we were talking about earlier this morning, that vocal cast that got assembled for if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark.
Yeah, but we didn't have Robert Downey Jr., and I don't think we had Jeff Bridges. I mean, there's a few key members that weren't there. So, I mean, that's no big deal. I could care less about who was on or off the voice cast. It was nice to have the originals, but, you know, the replacements did a serviceable job, and good for them for showing up and doing the thing. I think that WandaVision is a one-time deal, because even if we get a or a Vision storyline season 2 somehow, it's not going to be the TV episode format because they already did that. We're not going to get another Falcon and the Winter Soldier because, A, Falcon's now Captain America. And these things are going to evolve and change, so I don't expect WandaVision Season 2. I don't expect Falcon and the Winter Soldier Season 2. I don't even expect a Hawkeye Season 2. Mm-hmm. No matter what it does, I just don't expect that. What I expect is them to keep it fluid. Mm-hmm. So if they want to, say, do Hawkeye and Captain America Season 1 to be next, then that's what they do. And they use their spices like a good chef, spontaneously but within reason, and making the best dish they can based on the resources they have at hand. Can I use that actor? Great, I'm going to write him in. And then I'm going to, and it doesn't matter if they've been teamed up before or not. Mm-hmm. Because the Marvel Universe is so large and these characters don't just stick with a certain pairing like they're freaking Batman and Robin joined at the hip for all of eternity. Spider-Man hooked up with the Human Torch all the time. Mm-hmm. He hooked up with Wolverine all the time. He fought Hulk a couple of times. He hooked up with the Fantastic Four a number of times. I mean, the team members are always moving. So seasons are stupid. Don't even think about them. Just keep churning out content at a regular rate and let it evolve over time to be whatever you need to tell the story. Otherwise, you're stuck. Like if it's Will and Grace for 10 seasons, eventually Will and Grace, I loved them. But after 10 seasons, I was done with them. And it was great after so many years that they came back for a little bit, because it was nice to reunite with old friends. But what if you just had so many darn friends and they all just kept throwing different parties and you got different combinations of all your friends from time to time where, maybe Will didn't show up, maybe Grace didn't show up, maybe Jack didn't show up, but you still had a great time with Karen, damn it.
That's an interesting analogy. Okay. All right. Bears watching, and it's interesting you bring up the no seasons idea, because we are literally a week out from the terrestrial television season, the NBC, the ABC, the CBSs of the world, putting their new season out the door. And I don't really watch terrestrial television anymore. In fact, when we wrap up here, my treat for having worked on this show and getting it done and out the door is I'm going to sit down and watch the most recent episode of Only Murders in This Building, the Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez thing that's been running on Hulu and is wonderful. And just recently, Hulu announced that they're bringing it back for a second season because it did the very best numbers that a comedy series has ever done on Hulu.
You just like it because Steve Martin's doing a podcast.
I have to admit there is a certain, in fact, it's been
fun. You know what? I'm the Martin Short character, I just realized, because I'm about the acoustics in the closet. Son of a gun.
Well, okay. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week's show. Okay, folks, just to remind you, we do have some other podcasts here at the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. We do have Disney Dish with Len Testa, The Mothership, likewise Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. We've got some fun shows coming up there for animation news. We have Universal Joint. In fact, Dustin just reached out this week, so we got to get a new one of those out the door. But until those shows are there, if you're looking for additional entertainment, you can't miss following Aaron on social media. How can folks find you on social media?
Oh, jump on the old Twitter machine and type in Asa Prod, and lo and behold, there shall I be saying inane stuff.
As for social media for us, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Jim Hill Media, and over on Facebook it's Jim Hill Media News. It would be great if you folks would head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and recommend the show you're listening to right now, Marvelous Disney. If you really, really like what you've heard, if you want to head over to Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be killer as well. And I guess for now, that will do it for, really, this is our 100th episode.
Yep, and I had cake. Nobody else did. It's weird. I feel like a very bad host right now. Like, everyone came to the party, and I'm sitting here just eating pizza, and everyone's hungry, and their tummy's growling, and I'm just mouth full, like, oh, yeah, so what'd you do today? I've been here eating pizza for the party. I mean, you should have some. What, you can't? Oh, okay, sorry. Why is your tummy growling? This pizza's delicious, by the way. Enjoy the party, folks. Come again next time. What do you mean you'll never talk to me again? Why is everyone unfollowing me on Twitter? What the hell happened?
On that note, thanks for listening, folks. We'll be back soon.